Okay, so we've moved on throughout your event. So far what we've done is we've had you guys introduced in, we've ate our meal, we may or may not have done a cake cutting, and we may not have done our toast and special presentations if necessary. So with that said, at this point, where we're at is doing our specialty songs and first dances. And so there's some different things that you can do with this that are unique, but the traditional way of doing it is simply have the bride and groom coming out to the dance floor, and then we start your first dance song. Now, that works great, and we can certainly do that kind of thing, but what we like to understand is your full picture and what you're wanting to achieve. All right. So normally, this first portion of the evening, or of the dancing evening, I should say, revolves around the specialty dances and the spotlight dances. And by that, I mean you'll have your first dance, your father-daughter dance sometimes, your mother-son dance sometimes, a wedding dance sometimes, and on rare occasions, you may have a parents' dance. Now, all that takes a decent amount of time, okay, to go through the whole process. It takes a lot of time, from your event, which is okay. I mean, if you choose to do that, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what I like to, I guess, highlight, and so that you understand it more, is normally right whenever these dances are starting is normally towards the beginning of the evening. And I like to try and introduce or inject a little bit of energy into it, because that's going to set us up for later in the night. And so whenever we think about these kind of things, normally these first couple dances are slow songs. Okay. And so that has a tendency to kind of, coming off of, just eating and, just kind of having that background jazz, or whatever type of background music that you have at your ceremony. We want to kind of move you through the evening to kind of gradually bring you upbeat, so that way, as you're going through the event and as your guests are going through the event, they feel that energy going through them, and they're more inclined to dance later on in the evening. All right. So with that said, we like to try to reduce the amount of these first few dances, in an effort to not drag things on too long for your guests. Okay, because they have a tendency to kind of check out if that happens. Okay, so there's different ways of doing this. First off, let's talk about, even though this is not in the exact order, let's talk about the wedding party dance. Okay, do you want to have a wedding party dance? Normally, the reason for the wedding party dance is just as a thank you, for them being part of that event, and being part of your celebration. Okay, and so considering that, oftentimes it can also be a little bit awkward, especially if you got a slow song that you're planning for your wedding party. Okay, so depending on their partner that they're dancing with, they may or may not get along. There's different scenarios that happen, of course, that it works better to oftentimes not do a wedding party dance. But again, if you're sold on a wedding party dance, I would say certainly go for it. But there's certainly some other things that we can do to still spotlight them, but to kind of incorporate it in other ways. Let's say it that way. Okay. So let's go back up to the first dance. With the first dance, there's a few different things that we can do, depending on if you have a photographer and or a videographer. There's certainly some different things that we can do. And one of the things that I like to do personally is invite you, the bride and groom, up to the dance floor. And as we do, I'll have on cue, it won't be a verbal cue, but on cue, we'll have your wedding party come in and form a circle around the two of you on the dance floor. And the neat thing about this is, as your photographer and or videographer is going around getting shots throughout that dance, the nice thing is somebody from your wedding party is going to be in your background. And what I like about that is it's showing their support for you, the bride and groom. And any pictures that you have will have somebody from your wedding party involved in it. And that's just it's just kind of a super cool way of looking at it. And of course, there's different things that they can do since they're in a circle around you. At the end of the first dance song, they can potentially blow bubbles as kind of a add on to the end. I've seen sparklers in some cases. You have to be okay with the venue has to be okay with that, of course. And there's it's just a really neat way of kind of incorporating everybody into your first dance. And then sometimes, as if we decide to do this, sometimes what we'd have to do, have the bride and groom do, is just continue their dance throughout the first dance, and then maybe halfway through, the wedding party may break up into their own couples and then dance as well. And so that way they're not just standing there the whole time. But you can certainly have them stand there the whole time too, and that looks great for pictures and it looks great for support. It's just a really neat thing to do. So that's just one option for you. Or another thing that you can potentially do, I don't like this so much personally, but you can certainly do this. But you can have parents come up and dance with you like halfway through the song. And the neat thing is it kind of spotlights your parents. But on the side that the reason why I'm not a big fan of it is it kind of takes the spotlight from you. Now, this is your event, and I think it should be customized specifically to you. Now, with that said, that customization could include this, right? And so you decide. This is your event. I want you to be happy with whatever you choose. All right? Okay. Moving on to the father-daughter dance. Of course, you can choose to do a father-daughter dance or not. Totally up to you. But one unique thing that you can potentially do is invite all father-daughters halfway through the event or through that song. And so as your song goes on, roughly about halfway through, I can invite all the father-daughters up to the event, up to the dance floor. Now, we certainly don't have to do that. And again, I think this takes away from you, the bride, and your father at this point. So I recommend against that. But again, I just want to give you different ideas and suggestions along the way that you can improve or enhance your event. Okay? And then the same thing for the mother-son dance. You can certainly do this as well. The same thing. You can invite all mother-sons up, or you can just do the traditional way, and that would just be to dance with your mother that night. Okay? And then finally, the parents dance, again, up to you on that. I'm going to say that rarely happens. I've only, I think, experienced this one time in my 25 plus years. So it's not certainly something that you have to do. And then kind of moving on, just beyond your first specialty dances, there's something called the money dance. And I normally like to do this more towards the beginning portion of the dancing. And the reason for that is if you choose to do the dollar dance, then you're going to want to try to incorporate that sooner rather than later, because sometimes people have a tendency to leave, especially the older folks, just after the meal. Okay. And so if you can, if you're interested in doing the dollar dance, we can certainly set that up for you. But again, we like to do that earlier on in the evening if possible. Okay. And just in case you were concerned, what is the dollar dance? It is a traditional dance that I will say the tradition is somewhat fading away. However, I do it from time to time still. I'd say I probably do it roughly about 30% of the time. But what it is oftentimes you'll have people form a line in front of the bride and groom yourselves, and this is their opportunity to come up and dance with you. And what they'll do is it's called a dollar dance, so that they can bring up a dollar or money. It doesn't matter how much money. Some people give $100. It could be $1. Who knows, right? And oftentimes it's a maid or matron of honor that's there to help support this and take the money. So as the dance goes on, the bride and groom don't have to hold on to that. Okay. And so you can even kind of challenge it and say, who's going to generate the most money? Is it going to be the groom or is it going to be the bride? And so that's kind of a fun way to do that and kind of raise money to help maybe with the honeymoon portion of the of your relationship, or maybe it's just going to go to your house, or whatever you choose. That's totally up to you. Okay. However, some people do not like the money aspect of this. Okay. And so what we've done is they like the idea of being able to take the time to dance with their guests, but they didn't necessarily like the money aspect of it. And so what we've done is we can allow you also the opportunity to have your guests fill out advice cards. And so what this may look like is, instead of doing an exchange of money, they can put a little envelope with advice on it. And the neat thing about this is you can have it set up for different time frames. So what I mean by this is it may say on the outside of the envelope, open after 5 years of being married. And so then it gives you something cool to open up on your anniversary and say, oh, okay, after 5 years, let's open this up and see what Uncle Herbie said, right? And so just kind of a cool way to incorporate that and have something that you can look forward to later on in your relationship. All right, moving on then. Another thing that happens often, or relatively often, I'd say roughly 30% of the time, is an anniversary dance. And what that kind of looks like, just in case you're unaware, the anniversary dance is a dance that kind of spotlights anybody that's been married for a long time. Okay. And so what we do is we count up, we'll invite all the married couples to the dance floor, and we kind of count up through the years. So anybody that's been married 5 years or less, you can step off to the right hand side of the dance floor. You can step off the dance floor, totally up to you. And then we kind of move up through the years until we reach the last standing per se, or the couple with the longest standing relationship of marriage. And this gives you a spotlight to them. And it's normally like a grandparent, but it kind of spotlights them. And normally what I'll do is I'll congratulate them and then ask them what advice do they have for the bride and groom to make their marriage last as long as what yours has. And again, just a neat way to kind of tie the whole event together and show you, the bride and groom, how long your marriage can last as well. All right. And then, of course, any other spotlight dances that you're aware of that you've seen other DJs do, I can certainly incorporate those as well. But just keep in mind, this portion of the evening, there's a lot of times that anxiousness that people want to start dancing and celebrating. So with that said, the more we can kind of reduce down these first few dances and get to kind of the more energy type dances, the better off you are, I think, in a lot of situations, because I think it keeps people around. But it ultimately depends on your guests. So just keep that in mind as you go through this planning guide, and we'll see you in the next section. Thank you so much.